All right, I want to go over something simple that's important for a lot of pet owners that I haven't, a lot of little things associated with pets that are like real priorities for people, but I kind of neglect. I'm always, talking about like technique and shit like that people really aren't interested in. So this is an important one. And Neil, come on over here. And good boy, that's it right here. It's important to me actually as a pet owner. Come here, and it's important to a lot of pet owners. So it's kennel, the kennel, like what the right answer is, if you should use it, what it's for, how to use it, all that stuff. So first of all, you need a kennel. Like there's no way around it, and you have to understand dogs are natural den animals. So like I have these impact kennels that dogs can't get out of. They look like they're straight out of the shoe at Pelican Bay, right? We see a jail cell, but what they see is a den. And usually those are the kennels that the dogs like the most. It's like they feel safe in there. So, and it's what it is, it's their safe space. But you have to get rid of human conceptual baggage whenever you're dealing with dogs, okay? So once you start doing that, really what you're doing is you're flirting with anthropomorphization. If you anthropomorphize a dog, you humanize them, it's just the path to hell with dogs. So you got to abandon all that conceptual baggage right off the bat. That's rule number one. Rule number two is it's a must with all dogs, adult or young. It's just like all this stuff with training, the devil is in the details, okay? So first, what do you need it for? All right, let's start with the most basic stuff. Puppies, they'll kill themselves. They cannot give a young puppy free reign in the house. Like they're going to ingest something. First of all, it's going to kill housebreaking. They're just going to piss everywhere and poop everywhere. But they're going to ingest something and kill themselves. It's like, I'd say like the odds are like 50%. Because they love getting into stuff. It's like they're like babies. Babies are suicidal too. Once they get to like 1 or 2. So, because they don't know any better. So you have to do it with young dogs. Now, up to a year, you have to use it really with a fair amount of frequency. But it gradually dissipates the overall amount of time that they should spend in the kennel. Until after a year, they should be close to a point of self-sufficiency, as close to a dog can get to self-sufficiency, year and a half. Now at that point, I like my dogs to basically, they don't have to sleep in the kennel actually, at that age, although they often do. But I really want it there for management and for feeding. Okay, so we'll get into that in a second, but puppies, it's a must. Dogs under a year, it's a must. Between 6 and 12 months, it should be increasingly less, okay? But you're still going to need, you want to keep it fresh with dogs of all ages, okay? So just, have them go in there for like a half hour sometimes. No big deal, right? Even with an adult dog. So like Elvis, he never goes in a kennel and now he just bitches about it, So, keep it fresh and never, ever use it as punishment. I think most people know that. By the way, this is one of the few areas where you will see convergence between purely positive trainers and whether you want to call it balanced or obedience trainers. I don't think purely positive trainers have a problem with the kennel or the crate. But I might be wrong about that. I know PETA does. Okay, so you don't want to align yourself with PETA. PETA's a cult. They really are. So they just understand that this is something that is amongst trainers. I struggle to even call those people trainers, but amongst trainers, there's really no disagreement on this subject. So that's just to start off with the young dogs and the puppies. The next thing is safety and management. So here's the rule. Dogs get as much freedom as they can handle. Okay, no more than that though. Okay, so if they're not fully housebroken, they're lifting their leg up and marking. If they get into stuff, they can't. If you're not around, they can't be out. So let me give a horror story, and I feel bad giving these horror stories, but I'm not making them up. You know, I'm not being hyperbolic. This kind of stuff happens. A friend of a friend had a dog. The dog probably wasn't very well trained. It probably had separation anxiety. Who knows? The dog somehow got itself tangled next to the radiator and burned to death. Stuff like that happens with dogs, particularly dogs that are given too much freedom too soon, dogs that have separation anxiety, dogs that just can't handle the freedom. There's more stuff for them to get into, more ways for them to harm themselves when left out. So if you've got a dog that is a liability to himself, then you have to have the dog kenneled when he's not supervised, and that's a bummer. So the length of, I tell people 3-4 hours max. The dog can be kenneled, and then get a walker to break up the day if you're at work all day. It sucks, but get that dog there, and I want to talk about next about how to get them to a point where they don't have to be in the kennel all the time. But get that dog there as quickly as you can, and get them tired early too, so they're not like looking around all crazy to fucking murder themselves. But you know, until the dog reaches a point where you can trust them, maybe half the day, and then you can do the full day, don't take a chance, okay? This is a basic piece of safety equipment. Now, I have Mr. Willie Pep out. There's a visual aid. Come here, Willie. Ugh. Now, Willie is a lazy, lazy boy, right? He just wants to sleep all day. And he should be okay being left out unattended. Why is the camera... You're so handsome. You made the camera blurry, Willie. He should be okay being unattended, but he's pretty cool with my dogs. He kind of gets Elvis, who's a freak. But I still, if there's a piece of food left out, I don't trust him. It's the one thing that he'll throw down about. But here's the thing: he's got some separation anxiety. Again, he's a foster, so he's not getting enough. I mean, he's got a decent life, but it's not good enough. He's got some pent-up energy. He'd have separation anxiety anyway, but... So he chews stuff. Licks his paws and chews stuff. I do my best with the fosters, you know. But I got a lot on my plate. So anyway, he's a liability to himself. He ripped up my bed sheets. I tried leaving it in my room for a bit. So he's not ready. And a big piece of plastic, if you rip this off, it got lodged in his stomach. Guess what? He's dead meat. If it's not caught in time, and even then it could tear up his esophagus. So these are problems. Oreo is another good example. Oreo is like a chimpanzee. If you just leave him out, his jumping ability is amazing. Get up on stuff, he'll counter surf. He's just looking for food. But he's got horrible separation anxiety too, so he's going to get destructive. So how do you deal with this stuff? But so the moral of the story is these guys, until they get to a point where that's not going on, they need to be kenneled. So how do you deal with it? Well, one, you have to get them tired. Anything involving separation anxiety, by the way, is always going to be a brutal answer coming from me, which it is what it is. But getting them fatigued is one of the most important parts. Get them tired early as much as possible. There are other little things you can do to treat the separation anxiety. It's kind of a separate issue, but here's a simple thing that often goes overlooked. You can get a spy cam, which I still don't have one. I'm getting a couple this week. And you leave it on, leave for maybe a half hour. You go down the street. Once the dog has to be e-collar conditioned, the dog starts getting up on stuff, getting into stuff. Correct, with the e-collar. You know, those things are good. The ones I use are up to 3/4 of a mile. Some are half a mile. Go some distance so they can't still smell you or hear you. You know, half a block, whatever. Tap, tap. You can look at it on your phone. You know, it's wireless. And correct. And start with just a small area of the apartment or house. Gradually expand, okay? and get them to a point as quick as you can where they're going to be okay, and do it intermittently. So like, you know, half the time maybe you do the kennel, half the time you give them a little bit of an area, and you gradually, incrementally increase the freedom from there. And this is between, say, 9 and 12 months, and then past that age if they're still struggling. And that's how you do it. So get one of those little mini spy cams. But with my own dogs, here's the thing. I don't like killing my dogs. I'll be perfectly honest. And I don't like them in there for a long time, at least. And for Dewey, because he was raised in the woods by a dude who was a survivalist, so he didn't, and he's got his balls, housebreaking him was one of the hardest things. It was next to impossible. Plus, I see how the guys are on the couch. Okay, I let Elvis and Butch do that. Couch is a resource. It's not at the level of food, but, you know, they'll fight over it. Those two guys won't. They're not competitive. Dewey is. And Dewey's dominant over Butch. He'll throw down over resting place. Same thing toward meal. So, like, there's issues there. Marking's a big one because he was raised in the woods. So I'm rushing all day to get him in and out of the kennel. Like, the separation anxiety. A lot of this stuff is due to formative experiences with him. He came in a little damaged at 5-6 months. You know, I got an uphill battle to fight against that, but I do my best. He's got a big, huge kennel, and I get him in and out of it as much as possible. I get him fucking tired. I work the shit out of that dog. I do my best, but I'm going to get the camera, and that's going to help. But if I had to do it over again, the dogs would not be allowed on the couch, because it's tough to have two different sets of rules, though, you know. So, and then to train Butchie and Elvis out of it at this stage, they're like 9 and 11. But that's a point of conflict in a multi-dog household. But anyway, I don't like my dogs in the kennel. I would like them just hanging out, man, like just doing their thing all the time, except for when they feed. Okay, I got a multi-dog household. A dog should always be fed in their kennel. That's one of the most important things. You got a kid, you got other human beings around. Just avoid any point of conflict over an existential resource between a human and a dog by just putting them in their kennel and feeding them in there. And that's one of the primary ways you condition them to like their kennel. Okay, so you need it for that purpose. My younger dogs will sleep in the kennel most of the time. Here's another problem. Mio, come here. Get over here, Mio. Mio, come see Daddy. That's it. Mio is, here, big guy. Mio's got a competitive streak in him, as does Dewey. So I have to watch those. Come here. And he can develop resource entitlement very easy. Couch is a resource. So I can't let him sleep in my bed or anything like that. That's a disaster with a certain type of dog. Really, you shouldn't be doing that with any dog, but Butchie's doesn't matter. So you have to be wary of letting a dog out where he has full free reign in the apartment. So now he can develop entitlement toward the house, where he views it all as his territory. The couch is a big problem. As a pet owner, you really shouldn't have the dogs on the couch at all. Now you're creating a potential point of conflict over resource over a resting place, which is a resource between humans and a dog. And the dog can develop an entitlement toward it, okay? And then it's like, dog, get off the couch. Maybe the dog growls at you, or maybe the dog growls at your kid. You know what I mean? So you've got to be careful. So with a dog like Mio, that's a tricky kind of thing. And he's the type of dog I would never have on the couch. But again, I already had that prior. I allowed it with my older dogs, and it's tough to have two different sets of rules. And then in order to enforce that when you're not around, again, you need a camera. But anyway, so resource entitlement is another big reason why when you're not around for a while, it's important to have them kenneled at least a good portion of the time. But again, time limit, you're looking at like 3 to 4 hours, okay? Preferably less than that. But look, even with adult dogs, use it a little bit randomly to keep, and throw them in there with a bone or something. By the way, that's where you give them like chew articles, stuff that, you know, organic bone material, whatever. kneecaps to chew on, and have them feed in there so that they never have a conflict with another human being, especially a child, over food. It's just a safety issue. Another management issue. Sometimes you need the dog out of the way. You got guests, too much shit going on to be worrying about this dog. Dogs with territorial issue or fear aggression. I always say put the dog in the kennel, then put the dog on a placemat, let them see everything's safe, and then you can let them go. If they don't look creepy, they can go say hi on their terms. They guide the interaction. Okay? That's the procedure that you want to follow. But even with normal dogs, golden doodle, whatever, sometimes like they're a pain in the ass. They're no Christmas dinner. The dog can be in the kennel for a half hour, an hour, whatever, while you're getting everything prepared. And it's not like, oh, this is prison, because they're used to it, and it's not a big deal because you haven't made it a big deal. So you need it for that. And again, for any minor territorial type issue, or a dog can sometimes be a little creepy with visitors in the house, it's good for that initially because you got to say hi to the person. Then you get the dog in the place. They can observe. They see, you ease them into it. The introduction. So this is all very, very important stuff with every dog, particularly young dogs. And again, you can never use it as punishment. I'm trying to, this is for a client because she had reservations about the kennel and she got a young dog. So I want to write down, because I'm a spaz and I forget shit. And I think that's it. I mean, look, just don't use it as a punishment and follow the rule. They get as much freedom as they can handle. You want to see a dog be close to self-sufficiency by a year. Under a year, have them sleep in the kennel. And when you're not around, you can experiment. See how they do if you leave them out. Okay, if they can't handle it, they start scavenging. This is a dog over 6 months. Under 6 months, they should really be kennel when you're not around. Over 6 months, see how they do. Split it up 50-50. And if the dog shows that they can handle it, the dog isn't developing entitlement issues, whether it's the couch or just kind of, they're kind of showing like behavior where like they're just kind of being disrespectful maybe, particularly in relation to resources, then what you can do is you can reel them in a bit. Look, that's going to happen as you gradually expand freedom. The dog will fuck up a little bit, reel them back in slightly, okay, for a bit, get them back on track, and then expand it. But it's a process. People make this mistake with dogs all the time. They just let them out, give them tons of freedom, and you have to be more methodical about that. It's just like exposing them to like triggers. You want to do it incrementally, methodically. But if a dog can handle it sooner, full freedom around the house, it's great. I don't have any problem with that, but you have to go through, are we developing resource entitlement? The dog's kind of being, weird about the couch. Is the dog scavenging? Is the dog ripping stuff up? Is the dog running around the house like a chimp? Okay? And double check with the spy cam to make sure that's not happening. The last thing is separation anxiety. It's very important with dogs with separation anxiety, okay? And you got to get a kennel cover. People don't like that, but it actually helps them settle down because when the kennel isn't covered, they're looking out at stuff that they can't participate in, that is anxiety inducing. They have a hard time with it. So help them out. Pull the shades down. They're in there to take a nap, basically. They don't have to pull it down all day because now they're not getting any sensory input. But when there's something going on that they can't participate in, like guests or something like that, and you need them in the kennel, pull the shades down for a bit, okay, and let them just settle in. You also want to keep the kennel someplace that is the quietest spot in the apartment if you can. Away from the door where all the noise is. Again, it's stuff they can't participate in. It's going to bother them. Okay, so this is I think, we do things for reasons with dogs always. And it's never like, you got to let them know who's boss. That's not a reason. It's generally pragmatic, but it's also supposed to be in line with their nature and their natural den animals. Kenneling, conditioning them to the kennel is a really crucial part of the process. I do a lot of agility stuff, so I'll stack the kennels and have the dog jump up, kennel up, and then have them come out. Maybe we'll tug. You know, I feed them in there. I give them good stuff to chew in there. I give them good bedding. It's chew proof. Canine ballistics for kennel covers and bedding, sorta. It's pretty good. Kurunada or Kurunda, those beds, those are the most indestructible ones. They can't chew. Get them chew proof bedding. It's very important. And you know, but the cat, make it a good place for them, okay? So that they're not stressed out when they're in there. They don't view it as punitive, and don't make them spend excessive amounts of time in there. Even as puppies, they're in, but then you got to get them out. In, out, in, out, in, out. You know, it's shorter increments, but they're in there a lot. But you got to, you know, work hard with puppies. Puppies are a pain in the ass. So, you know, you got to work hard to get them in and out all day. But look for self-sufficiency around a year, maybe a year and a half. And that's it. But in a multi-dog household, it's absolutely critical. But even in a single dog household, you need it. You need it. You need it. And it's use it in moderation, just like everything else. Okay, use it properly. It's not punitive. Don't put them in for over 3 or 4 hours, absolute max. And that's it. Use it intelligently. Use it wisely. But it's an essential training tool. So that's the full thing with the kennel. I might do another video on kennel aggression. This is way too fucking long, but very, very important because I needed to make this for someone who has a young dog. So I wanted to just be as thorough as possible. A little boring, basic stuff. One of these days I'll make a video that's fucking short. And that's it. Sorry, boring stuff, but very important for pet owners. That's all.